From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven Erlandson, takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Hello, fine humans. It's good to have you here. This is the Badass Counseling Show. You have reached us in the New York City area. You've reached us for a lightning round Q&A. We are taking listener questions live, whether you are checking in from Australia, Alberta, Canada, Australia, or Darfield, New Zealand. It's wonderful to have you checking in. I am joined in studio by my colleagues and very good friends, KC, who's silent as ever over in the booth, and Rob the Rocket sitting next to me. Hello, Rob.
Hey, Sven. Stormy evening while we are recording this. The climate is weird sometimes, but the climate here on the show is always welcoming and inspirational.
Well, I tell you, that's because of you. You're that.
I don't think so.
It is very, very true. Here we go. David asked the question, should I get your book to give to my parents to let them know they are toxic? I mean, in all honesty, telling someone they're toxic is likely not going to draw the response you want. If they don't think they're toxic, then probably no amount of telling them is going to have an effect. Although for some people it does. But to your other question, should I buy my book and give it to my parents? I'm all for people buying my book. The question is, it can only do so much. If they don't pick it up and start reading it, it doesn't do any good. However, the book is very engaging. And each chapter is distinct and it has stories. And so it does grab people. Do I think you should give it a try? And that's really up to you. I mean, it would be so self-serving for me to say, yeah, I think you should give it a try, but I don't want to come off as a douche here. But yeah, it's a great freaking book. But if somebody's mind is completely closed, there's nothing you can do to open it. And any therapist, and I've got plenty here on these lives who write in, and it's just, you can't help someone if they're closed down. All right. Here's the question I want to ask you though, David. You want to let them know that they're toxic. The question, and this is going to sound like a stupid question, David, but the question is why? Again, there's nothing wrong with wanting to show them something, but the question is, why do I want them to see that they're toxic? You're wanting something to come from that exchange, okay? And I'm just typing here, guys, as I'm answering. You're wanting something to come from it. You're wanting them, I'm willing to bet, you're wanting them to, in all likelihood, acknowledge their toxicness, which then means wanting likely, and I've gone through this cycle of questions with so many clients over the decades, you're wanting them to recognize their toxicity so that what? So that they will acknowledge the pain that they've caused you, so that they will change how they treat you, so that you will, in all likelihood, get the love you've been wanting for quite some time from them. So the bottom line is you are doing this so that you will get something from them. You're wanting them to give you you're wanting to potentially have the relationship that you've always wanted with them, but you haven't been able to get it because they're so freaking toxic. So you figure if they change, then I can get my needs met. And if I get my needs met, then I can have some measure of peace. Then I can feel whole. Then I can feel complete. And all the bullshit messages they've given me all along won't ring true anymore. I'll finally get my needs met. So yes, giving it to them, sure, but you, in your own work, you need to look at why you're wanting to. All right. So Kirsten has this question, and this is on TikTok. And Kirsten asks, do guys ever miss the supportive girl they loved and then treated poorly? Oh, sure. Yeah. Do all guys? No. Do many guys? Oh, sure. Especially if they're lonely or they can't find another girl or whatever, and which is why you'll often get that call in the middle of the night or that call completely out of the blue 3 years later. And, it's not necessarily even a booty call. It's just they're lonely and they're reaching out to you. And so, yeah, they do. But the question you got to ask yourself, Kirsten, is, and I know this is going to sound obnoxious, but why do you care? Because the mere fact that you're wondering that says to me, and I'm not saying this to be obnoxious, you're wanting something. You are missing that person and you're still feeling hurt. And by them not contacting you, you're feeling like they don't miss you, and that hurts, and you're feeling rejected. So you are, in fact, grieving that. All right, over to Patricia on Facebook. How do I get better from finding out my husband's gay? After being with him for 36 years, he walked out 2 years ago when I found out. Patricia, you are grieving 36 years. I'm willing to bet that is longer than a lot of people have been alive who are listening to this very live right now. So you were together with this person for 36 years. They came out as gay and left you 2 years ago. The simple fact of the matter is you are grieving, Patricia. You are grieving the death of your relationship. You probably have a myriad of feelings going on inside of you. Anger, I have to believe, is a big one. Anger at him for deceiving you, although it's reasonable to assume he maybe didn't know back 36 years ago, but at some point, probably prior to 2 years ago, he did know, but he would have had to end it anyway. But you have every right to feel anger, to feel betrayed, to feel disappointed. Death of the relationship, death of a dream. Do you guys know how powerful it is to have your dream die? Now, in Patricia's case, it's the relationship, the dream of growing old together. Isn't that what so many of us dream about when we think about relationships and dating and love, to grow old together? And Patricia got robbed. So let's say you guys got married, even if you were really young, let's say 20. That means you're 56 now. That means you're just going into those years of growing old together. But if you got married at 30, that means you're 66. You've been together 36 years. You have a massive amount of sorrow inside of you, likely anger and so forth. And you have to begin the work of flushing that out. And not just with your therapist, and I sure as hell hope you have a therapist, but also writing down your feelings, writing letters to your husband that you do not send, including all your feelings, the rage. You need to hate on him. It doesn't mean you're a hateful person. It just means you're experiencing that feeling. Feelings are morally neutral. They are neither good nor bad. Any action you might take on it can be good or bad, but the feeling itself is neither good nor bad. And so you get those feelings out of you more and more and more. In a 36-year relationship, as you have already proven, you've been grieving it for a while, and you're going to grieve it for a while. But the more you are actively and deliberately get those feelings out, Patricia, the more you're going to begin to heal. But you have to understand you are grieving. Death of a relationship, death of a friendship, death of a dream, death of your sense of identity to a greater or lesser degree, right? You've got so much you're grieving. And then furthermore, what the hell do I do now? Has got to be a question you're running through. All right. Next question. Here we go. And Diana on Facebook asked the question, can someone overcome being an extreme taker? This is a question we get quite a lot. I'm going to hit it once today and then not come back to it. So, Diana, can someone overcome being an extreme taker? Those of you who follow my show know that I refer to what you call narcissists. I refer to them as extreme taker. I think it's a clearer term. Narcissist, of course, dates back to Ovid and the classics, which I did study, blah, blah, blah. Point is this. Someone who struggles with alcoholism and it ignites their worst traits and the wounded inner child takes over but becomes extremely mean and abusive. Can this extreme taker, can this be resolved? Can someone overcome being an extreme taker? Absolutely. It can absolutely be resolved. It can absolutely change. People say, oh, narcissists don't change. I've worked with many who do change, but only if and only if, IFF for those engaged in mathematical or scientific notation, if and only if their pain has gotten so bad that they are broken. That nut that is their extreme taker, that their worst traits, their person that they are, that doesn't concede anything, that nut has to be cracked open. And it takes pain to crack open the nut of an extreme taker. It takes pain to break them, to open them up. And almost invariably, it's the pain of loss of some sort. So the mere fact that you're asking that question, Diana, says that you have an extreme taker, a narcissist in your life that you are wanting to change, and likely he isn't changing, right? And you're waiting, hoping. And you can keep doing that, but it is a low percentage shot that person is going to change unless there is pain. And usually it's someone leaving, and it may be you leaving, or it may not be you leaving, which is even more heartbreaking. All right, next question. I had someone ask earlier, and the question scrolled by me there on TikTok. I didn't get to save it, but someone asked a very legitimate question. They said, I'm asking an honest question. Do you believe therapy actually works? Was the question. And my straight, honest, open answer is absolutely, it can work. Does it work every time? No. And that's due to any number of factors. Certainly the ability of the therapist, the experience, it's not just about knowledge, but the experience, the nuance, the ability to crack that nut, as we were talking about a minute ago, in a given client, know where they're taking them, trust their own instincts. But it's also dependent upon the client, him or herself. Plenty of people go to therapy and they squirm. Even in the hands of a good therapist, they squirm. In fact, I literally had a client today saying, Sven, the only thing that made the difference that I was finally able to change stuff in my mid to late 40s was that I was willing to sit in the discomfort of looking at all the stuff. People squirm in therapy, and oftentimes they don't want to open up. Well, why wouldn't you want to open up? It's uncomfortable. But what's uncomfortable? If they won't let me go into their deep stuff, the childhood stuff especially, where the real problems are, why would they be squirming? If we're not in the deep stuff, why are they squirming? They're squirming because they know it's there. They know something is there. So can therapy work? Yeah. But the question is the client willing to go there? And as I was just talking about a minute ago with Diana, with an extreme taker, what's going to get somebody willing to go there, to go to that uncomfortable, scary, ugly place? Pain. Just pain. The pain of living this way will break a person open. All right, next question.
The client has to really want it to work and be willing to go where it guides the client.
Yeah, although I would tweak one thing on that with my own work. I personally do not this is just me, and every client, counselor, therapist, clergy person works differently. For me, I don't let the client lead. I lead. But that's just how I work. I know where I need to take them to accomplish what I need to accomplish. But a lot of therapists are excellent and do follow the lead. But to your fundamental point, they have to want it, right? Precisely, because only wanting it is going to cause them to open up and really go into the deep stuff rather than just telling you what I did this like last week. And boy, it sucked when my boss yelled at me.
And if somebody's forcing them to go, it never works.
Oh, ain't that the truth? I get that all the time. Son, or Sven, fix my son. He's blah, blah, blah. Or can you talk to my wife? Blah, blah, blah. All right, here we go.
Got a YouTube question.
Go ahead.
Justin asks, am I pushing too hard in my self-work? Sometimes after journaling, I feel myself have panic attacks, stuff like suicide attempts and being sexually abused as a child.
Okay, Justin, that would not be the time to stop the journaling. Once you're down there, that tells me your journaling is working. It's taking you down to those deep feelings. It's taking you down to those scary things. So it's working, dude. You're doing the right thing. And I'm willing to bet that, is it after the journaling that those panicky feelings and those memories come up? Or is it as you're going along in your journaling, they begin to come up more and more and more, and then sometimes you stop because it's too scary or too uncomfortable? Now, it could be either one or both. But the bottom line is, when the strongest feelings are coming up, that is the time when you most especially need to keep journaling, most especially need to write another letter that you don't send. That's when you want to be in therapy. That's where any therapist wants to take their client, is to the ugly, scary stuff.
He says mid or after.
Yeah, exactly. And Justin, it's totally okay that you want to abort at the moment you start feeling that panicky stuff and the fears and all the memories. Totally understandable. And that's why people will quit therapy, or that's why people will become uncomfortable and pull back or shut down in counseling. It's because of all that stuff that's now coming up, but that's where the healing is. So shoot, Justin, I got to tell you something. If you're able to pull that off in your own journaling to get yourself to that place, you are doing half of the work of counseling all by yourself. You, my man, are hot on the trail. Now stay in it. Keep doing it. Let those feelings come. And if you got to do it in small bites, Justin, letting that stuff come up and flushing it out of your system, do it in small bites. All right? If you need to write a page and then go for a walk around the block to cool down, do that. And then come back, write another page. But once you're in it, and then at some point you're going to have to shut it down because you got to go to work, or you're going to have to shut it down because, the kids got to eat their dinner, or whatever it is. But the mere fact that you are in it and you are that deep, Justin, you're the man. I swear to God, a lot of people would kill to be able to do that. And so you're unlocking the serious shit. And I say welcome it and keep flushing and become even more adamant. It's what it's like, Justin? It's your journaling is taking you down to the scary feelings, and they're coming up, and the memories are coming up. And it's like you went into the weight room, you got a personal trainer, you went in the weight room, trainer, Mr. Trainer, Ms. Trainer, I'm 100 pounds overweight. I want to lose this and I want to put on some muscle mass. And it's like you're at the point now where when you're working out, when you're not with your trainer, you're getting these great workouts. You're seeing some definition in your stomach. You've shed 75 pounds. You're seeing some muscle, but you really hurt afterwards because you're really pushing it. It's like, dude, this is not the time to quit. You got to give yourself adequate rest days, but this is the time to double down because your work is doing it, Justin. I'm mad kudos to you, my friend. All right, next question.
He sends a thank you and a heart.
Thank you. And a heart right back at you. All right. Spencer Small asked the question, how do you reduce nightmares? You write them down. When you wake up, you write them down. You're sweating, you're anxiety-ridden, you're worked up. It's fundamentally similar to what Justin was just describing he's experiencing in his journaling. That the feelings are coming up. The fear is coming up. Great. That's the time to hit the pen and the paper right away. To roll over on the side of your bed, click on the bedside light and start writing out what your nightmare is. And it's going to scare you. Write out what you're feeling. That was really scary. And then the man was chasing me in the dream, but I couldn't run fast enough. And then I fell off a cliff. And then the ghosts got me. And write it all out. And keep writing, but especially, and why am I feeling this way? Oh, I'm feeling this way because I was really terrified. Holy cow, my heart is beating so fast right now. Everything. Keep writing it out. And when it brings up other memories, when it brings up other thoughts, write those out too. Because all of your nightmares are coming from somewhere, and you want to get down there and you want to stay down there and keep flushing those memories out because all of those memories have emotional charges. A nightmare is something that causes you to feel basically bad, feel scared, feel angry, feel terrified, whatever it is. And so those feelings, you've got memories inside of you, likely from your past, that are emotionally charged. And so the more you can go down there and stay down there and flush that shit out, the more you're going to heal. All right, next question. Rukshana asked the question, how do you get rid of the inner absence that the narcissist infected you with? The inner absence is being caused by beliefs that the narcissist, in your case, the extreme taker, as I call it, as you say, infected you with. In other words, those feelings of emptiness, those feelings of absence, those feelings of longing, like something is missing in my life, are a result of things that you have been taught to believe about yourself. So you get rid of the absence by going down, and it's easy to say, well, get rid of those beliefs. Yes, and that's an easy thing to say. But what you're fundamentally doing is you have to identify them first. You have to find them, which requires a willingness to look at some really scary, ugly shit. But it's going down and finding what are those core beliefs that I was taught about myself that are driving me to feel empty inside, that are driving me to feel alone. Maybe you've felt alone your entire life. All right, but that's predicated on some beliefs, and you have to identify those. Well, how the hell do you do that? Especially since your core beliefs you can't even see. Well, great, Sven, how the hell do I do that? I mean, could you be any more of an enigma? I mean, what kind of hokum is this? I know this is going to sound like a shameless pitch, but that's what I wrote the freaking book for, to take you down there. There's a hole in my love cup. You can get it at badasscounseling.com. It's to take you down there and identify and name and begin the process of flushing out. And this is a process that does not have to take forever, but you get rid of the absence by identifying where this absence is coming from, what is driving it, and then engaging in the tools that I teach in the book for flushing it out. And again, this is not some process that has to take years and years. Literally, my average client takes a few months. All right, next question. You got one, Rob?
Yes, sir. Sherry on YouTube asks, is it normal to give up on having romantic relationships? I'm 57 and all I've ever had is toxic relationships. I'm not sure it's worth it to keep trying. I'm tired of having to start over.
The mere fact that you're even raising that question says a part of you wants one. You wouldn't even bring up that question. You'd be like, fucking, I'm done. It's just done. But what you're saying is, I'm done. Is this okay? Is this normal? Is it wrong? You know, a part of me, I hate it, and they've all been toxic, but it sounds to me, you wouldn't have kept going into another relationship, and even after a toxic one, unless a part of you wanted it. Now, you may not want it anymore because it feels like it only comes with pain, Sherry, and that's totally understandable. Right. But here's the bottom line, and I'm not saying this to be a dick or anything like that, but What is operating inside of me that I can change, that I can heal, such that I'm picking better, such that I'm not tolerating, such that I've improved my own boundaries? When I work with victims, okay, and I've been working with victims for 30 years, counseling victims for 30 years. When I work with victims, in addition to helping them heal the pain that was caused by the oppressor, by the perpetrator, by the bully, what I'm also beginning to work with them on is teaching them boundaries, teaching them how to stand up for themselves and not back down. Well, why would I do that? So that in their friendships, with their family, at their work, in their love relationships, they're not tolerating crap. They're not allowing someone to treat them poorly. Am I blaming the victim for their past shit? No, of course not. But can I help them improve their life by teaching them new tools for relationships? Yes. The truth be told, Sherry, I guarantee you've got beliefs inside of you that you were taught about yourself that caused you to tolerate that bullshit. And that can be healed. But the bottom line is, if you're just tired and want to be done with it, that's okay. Rob?
She says, I'm tired of being hurt. I have your books. I am healing, but I struggle with boundaries.
Well, and that's just it. The reason you struggle with boundaries is because you've been taught at some early age that your feelings, your wants, your needs don't matter. You struggle standing up for yourself because you've been taught your voice doesn't matter. Not only that, your voice can't be trusted by your own self. So you question yourself when you do stand up and you feel bad, perhaps. I'm not supposed to hurt someone else. Oh, if I stand up for myself, they might hurt me or they may not want me. And all of this comes from those core beliefs you were taught about yourself. You need to be focusing specifically on Love Cup. I would actually put Badass Wisdom away for a while. If you got the books, focus on Love Cup. Start at the beginning, but you have to do the written exercises. You have to do them in writing, the journaling recommendations, etc. All right, much more to come right after this break.
I am one of the lucky few who've had the privilege not only to read his books, but also to experience Sven face-to-face for countless one-on-one sessions. His intelligence, knowledge, and deep empathy have had a deep impact on me and the people I love. And I can say that he is amongst the most important people in my life for the last 10 plus years. I am thankful for you, Badass Sven.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
Hi guys, good to have you back. User 92063 on TikTok asks, I'm really curious, was journaling the main component in your most successful clients? Nope, not at all. It's an element. I always give my clients homework at the end of every session. Every single client of mine knows that I always give homework. And I tell my clients, homework is optional. I will never scold you. I don't give a shit if you do it or not. I'm going to ask about it because if you have, then we can cover some more shit. But I'm not going to scold you if you don't. It's strictly optional. I give homework for people who want to run faster. That is to say, as you guys have heard me say a million times, as anybody in sports knows, championships are won and lost in the offseason. So that means your best work, or not your best work, hopefully, but a lot of your accomplishments in your counseling are being done outside of session. Are you going back into and going deeper on what was covered in session? Are you journaling and using some of the other tools I teach in There's a Hole in My Love Cup? If not, then you are depending upon a 50-minute session once a week to heal your problems. And let me tell you, that is the slow motherfucking road to China, as the old saying goes. Absent the motherfucking part. And so no, to answer your question then, and for those of you who didn't hear the question, I am really curious, says user 920 on TikTok. Here's the question. I am really curious. Was journaling the main component in your most successful clients? No, the main component was my counseling method. And I think every single one of my clients would say exactly that. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. I've got a few counseling. I noticed the names of some of my counseling clients here, or former ones. If they choose to out themselves, they can chime in on that. If not, no, it's just the counseling itself. That over 30 years of doing this shit, having been raised by two people who were professional counselors, and I just sort of learned it through osmosis. It's like growing up being the kid of Bill Gates. Do you think that kid knows something about computers? Yeah, probably. And I've just been doing it a very, very long time, and I'm really fucking good at what I do. Am I the best? No. Fuck. There are tons of people out there. I'm sure plenty of them far better than me, but everybody has their own method. And I have my method, and it works. But the journaling is just an ancillary aspect that I always recommend to clients. But I can heal you even if you don't journal. It's just going to take a little bit longer. So next question. Listen to the question, because a few threads are being woven together here, folks. Is it spiritual to give love and let your narcissistic parent into your life after no contact for 1 year? What you don't mention, Buttercup, is who went no contact. Did you go no contact or did they go no contact? But you asked the question. I'm going to repeat it again. Do you guys see the different threads? We've got narcissist, we've got parent, we've got no contact, someone wanting in, and we've got the word spiritual, and then we've got the word love in there. So there's like 5 different threads here, each and every one of them very significant. As you know, my background is spirituality and being a clergy person, but I was also the very first person ever to write a book on the spiritual but not religious movement, which I started writing about 30 years ago. You can check it out on Wikipedia, confirming that. And so the question is it spiritual to give love and let your narcissistic parent into your life after no contact for 1 year? I'm just going to answer, is it spiritual? Do you want to know what spiritual is? Spiritual, in my work, I can't speak for anyone else. In my work, to be spiritual simply means you are in tune with, in communication with, and acting from your own deepest center, your spirit, your soul. And so the question is your giving love, as you say it, and letting your narcissistic parent into your life after no contact for 1 year, does it feel right down deep inside of you, or does it feel like a should? Like you feel obligated? Is it possible you don't really want to? You throw in the word narcissistic parent. So I'm betting you went no contact for over a year, and you're feeling bad, or this person is trying to get back in and making you feel bad. And or I'm betting somehow perhaps religion plays into this, or you feel some sense of obligation to let this person back in. If you went no contact, you went no contact for a reason, or a sequence of reasons, or a long pattern of behavior, i.e. reasons. And the question I would have is, have those reasons actually changed? Has the person changed their behavior? You didn't say ex-narcissist. You didn't say recovering narcissist. You said, is it spiritual to give love and let your narcissistic parent into your life after no contact for 1 year? Is it spiritual? It's only spiritual if it feels right inside of you. The question is, do you have the courage to act on what truly feels right inside of you? That means if it doesn't feel right inside of you, to take this person back. If what feels right is to keep them out of your life, do you have the courage to listen to you, to your own spirit, to the voice of the universe or the voice of God speaking to you from within, if you're a God person? Do you have the courage to honor that voice? Because if you have a narcissistic parent, you were taught precisely the opposite. You were taught to not listen to your voice, but only to listen to the parent's voice, which inclines me to think, why? Why do I know that? Because that's the pattern of an extreme taker, of a narcissist. Listen to me. Don't listen to yourself. Do what I say. Give me what I want. Give it to me. Give it to me. Give it to me. So I'm betting you're being pressured here, and that's that.
I think you've answered Laura's question on YouTube.
What was Laura's question?
How do you resolve religious manipulation on your own?
Oh, how do you resolve religious manipulation on your own? First of all, you, if need be, if you feel it's time, you cut out the source of religious manipulation in your life. Is the source of it a parent? I mean, very often people get started in church when they're young and perhaps get used. Or is it a member of the church? Is it the clergy person? Is it a lay person? You got to create safety. So whatever you need to create safety for yourself, but then you have to go down to the roots of what's going on inside of you, the effects of that religious manipulation. You have to go in deep inside of you to begin to identify it and, of course, root it out. That's where it starts. All right. Have you got one ready? You said you had one for me, Rob.
I got a few here I'm picking from. How about Joanna, who asks, what is going on with self-sabotage? One day I'm on track, goal-driven, determined, and then suddenly making terrible decisions and derail the success. What is going on?
Yeah, self-sabotage is actually a misnomer. It's a bad name as I see it. You're not sabotaging yourself. What was the name? Rebecca, was it?
Joanna.
Joanna, you're not sabotaging yourself. It feels like that. What is sabotaging you is the core beliefs that you've been taught about yourself that got embedded, that got pressed deep into the wet cement of your soul when you were a child. There were messages in there, and this is what I talk about in the book. There's a hole in my love cup. I actually talk about it in Badass Wisdom as well, but messages get embedded in us as children, and they're often not explicit. They're often implicit, tacit, in an action, in an expectation, in a subtle message, this overt message, oh, you're wonderful, but then there are other subtle messages implying things to you, and those usually take on the flavor of one, two, or three of three things. One, you're not wanted, which the child receives as I'm not wantable. You're not loved, which child receives as I'm unlovable or not good enough, and or you don't matter. You're not important. I don't care about you. And a child believing they don't matter basically is, the other two are statements of, are value statements. You're not wantable. That's a value judgment. You're not lovable. That's a value judgment. But you don't matter is actually an existential statement. You're basically saying you don't exist. All right. As a child, I guarantee you got one or some number of those messages. And as a result, those core beliefs are embedded very, very deep inside of you. So your willpower is accomplishing all these things, but you're in fits and starts, aren't you? It's like you have 1 foot on the accelerator and 1 foot on the brake. And the accelerator is your willpower, but then you brake your own efforts, right? That's because those messages inside of you are the brake. Those messages are causing you to doubt yourself, causing you to say, I'm failing, causing you to have all sorts of fears. And until those messages come out of you, you will continue to stop and start. This is why in the book, in all of my books and in my counseling, I always say, the soul is more powerful than the will. You can have all the willpower in the world. And I have clients who are literally CEOs on Wall Street, who are heads, top people in academia, in Hollywood, in music, all sorts of industry. People who own companies around the U.S., around the world, successful people. And I've done years of work with homeless and middle class, and still do with middle class folk, etc. But I deal with people who often have a whole lot of willpower and have accomplished massive things, and they have this giant, and they come to me because the soul takes over and shuts it all down. They're fucking miserable inside, or it gets stripped from them. The soul is winning because your soul is fundamentally saying, by shutting you down, your soul is saying, this life you're creating here, your soul from it deep inside of you is saying, this is not who we are. Your soul is shutting you down to finally do the work and finally become your authentic self. This is why in my work, and it's backed up by some other folks, such as people in other fields, such as psychology, which is not my field, but the depression is the soul calling you down to heal. It is not. It sucks. It's hard. It's horrible. I was in 12-year suicidal depression, but it is your soul calling you down to healing. So you can run from it and you can bemoan it, or you can go into it and begin to flush out all the pain, the fears, and the bullshit beliefs you've been taught about yourself. All right. Why do extreme takers tell you to leave, then make it impossible to leave? They tell you to leave as a power move. Fuck you, then just fucking leave. No, go. You should go. You should go. They're taunting you. They're trying to push you away. You want to know why? Because the mere fact that they're extreme takers and they have reached the level in the relationship of being extreme takers says they are not intimidated by you. And furthermore, they, somewhere inside of them, whether they're cognating this or they're just aware of it at a visceral level, they know you're afraid to leave. So they're pushing you away, and that excites fear inside of you. But then when you actually go to take that move, they make it impossible, to use your words. They're pulling you hither and yon, to pillar to post. They're fucking with you. Why? Establish control. Establish control. What the hell was that thing I just saw? Oh, man. Oh. That was it. We just saw this year. One year I took Rob. We went to Shakespeare on the Sound, but this year we went to a different Shakespeare, summer stock, and they were doing, what is it? Not Much Ado About Nothing. What the hell was it? Anyway, one of the Shakespeare plays where a man fundamentally controls his wife, and she comes and she goes, anybody know which one it is? He comes in, it's set in Italy. He comes into town, and this woman is uncontrollable. They're two sisters. Fuck, what is that one?
Could it be The Taming of the Shrew?
Taming of the Shrew, that's it. That's exactly what this is. Go and read Taming of the Shrew or catch the Cliff Notes on it. That's exactly what he is doing. He is fucking you around. He is doing everything to jerk you around. Why? If for no other reason, to make you hurt as a way to further his control. And so, yeah, I don't recommend staying in that relationship because this fucker is not going to change. All right, Rob, you said you had one. Go for it.
Yeah, not sure how I knew that.
That you pulled that one out of your ass, brother. That was good.
Yeah, all right. Right, here's your next question, Sven. On YouTube, it's from Bradley. And he asks, am I to blame when I'm just not happy with how I get treated by my family? I try to express myself and set boundaries, and it gets turned back on me like I am the villain.
Right. Are you to blame for standing up for your feelings? Hell no. Bradley, is it? You are not to blame. The bottom line is you have to understand when you stand up for yourself, if you've been shit on, especially within a system, you exist within this ecosystem that is your family, that existed prior to you. This family was created by your parents. All right? That means in all likelihood, unless you were the supreme golden child, and, you know, and some children actually do run households, but it's even bigger than golden child. You likely, even if you are the golden child, you don't necessarily run the household. All right? But you are a subordinate player in this ecosystem. That means and remember, and you guys have heard me say it before, myth systems in families, myth systems always exist to protect the person at the top of the food chain. The myth system of your family, it's based on a certain number of myths, a certain number of stories, and it protects whoever is at the top of the food chain, whoever is the most powerful person in the family, and you are not it. So when someone speaks out against that myth system or creates discomfort or unrest or scandal in that myth system, in that ecosystem, the system will use its entities, use its powers to shut down that non-compliant voice. You are a non-compliant voice, Bradley. You are going against the family by having feelings of your own. Now, remember, folks, in many families, there is this sort of what someone once called it, maybe it was Jung or somebody said, called the family patient. I call him the family sacrificial lamb, biblical reference. That there's someone who gets shit on, right? Now, whether you're that person or whether many do, what the person at the top of the food chain will do, if you come and disrupt the family by saying you get to have feelings, they will employ your siblings. They will employ aunts, uncles, grandmas, grandpas to shut you the fuck down, get you to shut the fuck up. You need to understand that you having feelings is not allowed, Bradley. And they're happy to clearly make you feel and know it is not allowed and you shall not do this. So the question is, at what point do you have the courage to be your authentic self, even amid the slings and arrows of those you've been in relationship with your entire life? Do you have the courage? And the bottom line is, telling them these things implies that you're trying to get them to change and treat you nicer. You are wanting something from them. Understand this, people. Listen. Anytime you're trying to get someone to change how they treat you, anytime you're drawing a boundary, you're fundamentally trying to get something from someone. And what you're trying to get, generally, in your case, Bradley, is better treatment. And anytime someone has something that you want, they have the power to make you miserable by saying, fuck off. You're not getting it. Look, you're miserable. To the point where you're even blaming yourself. That's how much power they have over you. Not just because you've grown up in that myth system, but also because you have something. They have something you desperately want. You want their approval. You want them to be kind to you, right? So they have the power. It is not until you no longer seek that from them that you take your power back. But you're wanting it from them in all likelihood because them giving you kindness, them giving you respect is a confirmation of your worth to them. To you from them. You're wanting them to confirm worth, but if they're treating you like this now at whatever age you are, they've likely been treating you this the whole time, unless all of them underwent some giant transformation of character. Unlikely. Zero chance. Oh, okay. Low percentage shot. No, they didn't. They've treated you this way the whole time, right? Which means your voice, your feelings, what you want and who you are has been invalidated your entire life, and you're still trying to get them to validate you, and it sucks, and you're probably going to have to leave that family. Go ahead.
Bradley says, thank you. I've been feeling like I am in the wrong. I am the middle child and the second grandchild. I am the one everyone expects to solve their problem.
Well, there you go. And see, this is something. Listen to what he just said. Read that again, Rob, about the middle child part.
Right. I am the middle child and the second grandchild, and I am the one everyone expects to solve their problem.
Oh, man. And this, I tell you guys, I see. If I've seen it once, I've seen 2,100,000,000 times 7. All right. It's where the very person they want to keep in line is the very person that they expect to provide goods and services. Where the person who has kept the family together, or the person who has always been the source of humor, or the person who always does the listening, or the person who always takes care of mom and dad, or the person that, even though all the siblings have left mom because she's an incorrigible bitch, I'm expected to, and I feel bad, and blah, 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 blah. And do you want to know why you're doing that? It's not just because you've been sort of shamed into doing this, but it's also because you're wanting their approval. You're wanting their approval, and you feel bad for mom, or you feel bad for them, right? But the problem is you're not allowed to feel bad for yourself, and you're saying, hey, I feel bad for me. And they're saying, no, fuck you, boy. Shut up. Get back to work. Here we go. Next question. Sylvie asks a really powerful and pointed question. Can a severely abused survivor ever have a healthy relationship? Sylvie, absolutely and unequivocally, yes. Yes. I've not only seen it happen, I have walked clients through that and brought them to a place of healing, brought them to a place where they have finally have their life back. And many, many times, not only that, I have conversed with, in deep conversation, many survivors who've worked with other therapists, using other tools, who have. But the problem is, when you are in the throes of all that goes with being a victim of severe abuse, you can't see that. It's hard to even believe it, as is evidenced by your question. Can a severely abused survivor ever have a healthy relationship? Absolutely and unequivocally. But the relationship that you will have with someone outside of you has to be long preceded by a relationship being built inside of you, because all that severe abuse taught you several things. I mentioned, not wantable, not lovable, not good enough. You're no good. You don't matter. You don't exist. You're a piece of shit. Those messages are what are chewing you up from inside. And on top of the physical actions that were done to you, it's the messages that can get conveyed. Even if they were never explicit, even if they were never put into words, you can harm someone with deep negative messaging without ever saying a word. Without ever saying a word. All right. And so, yes, it has to be gone into, but this is not something that has to be a forever process. And on this notion, Sylvie, of healing those messages that get put into us, one of the questions I regularly and respectfully ask of clients who have been subject to physical or sexual abuse and verbal abuse, emotional abuse, is I ask them the question. I always tell them, you don't have to answer. There's no pressure to answer. You tell me to go fuck a duck. But it's an honest question. And I always ask this question. If you had to choose, and if you don't want to, you don't have to, which for you was worse? I ask these people who have been victim to both, the physical / and or sexual abuse, or the verbal and or emotional abuse. And 99% of the time, not all the time, there are exceptions, 99% of the time, it's the verbal emotional abuse. And they almost all make the same comment afterwards. The physical wounds heal. Now, there are those for whom the physical wounds don't heal, particularly in some forms of sexual abuse and physical abuse. The wounds don't heal. We just had someone on the show. We had a counseling episode that we taped last week, and we had a gentleman. His name was Isaiah. He was on the show, and he talks about being physically abused by his stepfather in some horrific ways. That episode is set to air mid-August-ish. And, he was beaten with a 2x4 that had nails in it. And he was beaten with the nail side facing him. He was asthmatic, and his stepfather would blow cigarette smoke into his face to trigger an asthma attack in the boy, so that the stepfather could stay home from work and then go on to sexually abuse Isaiah. So
August 22nd will be
August
available.
22nd. Yep. So check out the August 22nd episode of the Badass Counseling Show. So to answer your question, Sylvie, can a severely abused survivor ever have a healthy relationship? Yes. And I tell my clients, my goal is to take you from surviving to thriving. And I know it can be done because I have done it, and I know other therapists, really good therapists, have done that, and really good clergy people using soul counseling, spiritual counseling techniques have accomplished it as well. It can be done. Absolutely. All right. One last question, and then we're going to shut this down. I like this one. I really like this one. All right. Here's the question from Amanda Marie. And this is so critical for so many people in their healing process. Amanda Marie, you get a gold star as well. I've given out, you're the second gold star I'm giving out today. You get a gold star on the top of your paper. This is a great question. How can you accept never getting an apology from a toxic parent because they've died? Okay. I love this question. What she's fundamentally asking is, what the fuck am I supposed to do? My parent is dead and they didn't apologize. In other words, the wounds that they caused never got healed because they didn't apologize. I love this because the implicit belief is that in order to heal, you need something from the person who caused the wound. And recognize that most of my work is inner child work. I need the perpetrator, I need the parent, whoever raised me, to give me something, to acknowledge, which is a giving, to apologize, to give me something that they stole from me. My sense of identity, my sense of worth, to give it back by acknowledging the pain they caused and by apologizing. And what I'm saying is, and that's completely understandable. So many people say, Sven, I can't heal, my parent is dead. Or how am I supposed to heal? My parent is in a psychosis, or my parent is comatose, or they're 93, and I feel bad going to them and explaining everything they did. They denied it their whole life anyway. Why the hell would they admit it now? And I just feel bad, or whatever. You don't need anything from the parent in order to heal, which is why I tell my clients all the time, I don't need you to confront your parent. If you want to, that's up to you, and we should probably have a session or two beforehand so that you're doing the work so that you know what the hell you want to say, and so it's all just clear. But I don't need you to confront your parent in order to heal you. I don't. Again, if you want to, that's up to you. What you need to do is go down to those core messages and begin to identify them. And I help you do that. And we do that in the session. And very often I get down to that in the very first session. Of course, my first sessions are 6 hours long. Or definitely in the second session. And then we begin to go back to that more and more. And then those core beliefs begin to release their grip on the person. But what you're going to discover is that knowing, in a way, it's a bit of a relief. Crazy as this may sound, Amanda, it's a bit of a relief knowing you're never going to get the apology from the parent. Because in a way, you've been striving, trying to get them to give it to you, using different techniques, trying to get them to acknowledge what they've done and apologize. Because you've wanted something from that apology, not just the healing of the wound, but you've wanted to get probably a normal parent relationship in which you're getting love, confirmation of your worth. But once they die, you can't get it from them. So you're not chasing them anymore. So now the question becomes, what the hell do I do now? Now I have to find some other means to heal, because I sure as shit don't want to just spend the rest of my life distracting myself or self-medicating with, the Jack Daniels or whatever it is. And the way we do this, again, that's what my book is for, to take you down into that shit. That's what I do in my counseling as well. The book is There's a Hole in My Love Cup, and you can get it at badasscounseling.com, and now there's a workbook available to go with it. But it's not that you accept never getting an apology from your toxic parent because they died. It's that you go about the work of identifying those messages that have put you in this state, and identifying all the pain that they caused and beginning to flush out the pain as well as the bullshit beliefs you were taught about yourself. That's the work. All right, folks. This has been a lightning round episode of the Badass Counseling Show. To all of our friends checking in from New Zealand, from Ontario, from Lake Cormorant, from Texas, Paris, Texas, from New Zealand, it's been great having you all here. Thank you for your questions, and a special thank you to KC over in the booth, Rob the Rocket next to me. Rob, final thoughts?
Yes, from your listeners. Let's see now. Ayla says, I find Sven's voice comforting. Anyone else, or is it just me? And Sherry says, I find his voice therapeutic.
Wow.
To which Joanna says, yep, all of the above.
Well, then I have to say one thing on it. Thank you, first of all, ladies. Very gracious, very gracious. You want to know whose voice has the same effect on me? Honestly, I've been for about the last 30 years, even though it's out of print now, so I have to listen to past episodes. But online, I listen to the Writer's Almanac almost every day. And the voice of Garrison Keillor, that great sonorous voice, is fantastic. He does the Writer's Almanac, where he does sort of 5 minutes on great writers in history, and then he reads a poem, a bit of poetry at the end. And I love that man's voice. And as a native Minnesotan, of course, I'm partial to Garrison Keillor. Anyway, thank you so much for checking in to the Badass Counseling Show. Have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by two-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.